Hi, it's time for a fundamentals video. Today we're going to talk about one of the most fundamental parts of any NuTone intercom system, and that is the amplifier. Every NuTone radio intercom master station has an amplifier of some kind built into it, regardless of how old it is or when it was made. The sets in the early 60s had tube amplifiers, and starting around 1965 or so, we move into solid state amplifiers. So we're going to talk about the very most basic functions of how an amplifier works in your intercom systems and things that you need to consider about how your system is set up properly to make sure the amplifier lasts as long as it can. Take a look at the whiteboard and look at our most basic and fundamental amplifier block diagram. So here we have a source. The source can be any device that sends a signal to the amplifier, which is the next block in our diagram, and the amplifier sends power to drive a speaker, which is our third part of our drawing. So the source can be any kind of audio signal source. It can be an iPod, it can be a radio tuner, it can be a cassette player, it could be a CD player, it could be a phonograph, it could be your voice as you speak into your intercom station to call to someone else in your house. Those are all audio signal sources. So whichever type of source you have, that device sends audio signals through a wire into the amplifier. Now, amplifiers are not really a mysterious device. Amplifier is simply a device that takes a signal that's fed into it and makes it bigger. It amplifies it. It increases the amount of signal and the amount of power that there is in the signal, and then the amplifier sends out the amplified signal to a speaker so you can hear it. If you were to hook up a speaker to your audio source, you would only have a little tiny amount of sound, not very much at all. And a good practical example of this is if you plug your earbuds into your phone and you put the earbuds in your ears, you have plenty of volume to hear the music because earbuds are really small and tiny and they don't require much power to have them produce sound. But if you took a large speaker cone, say like this is a 5-inch diameter speaker cone. If you hook this up to your earbud connection on your smartphone and you hold it up next to your ear, you're not going to hear very much. You'll maybe hear a little bit of sound, but your phone isn't putting out much power, so it's not really designed to drive a big speaker like this. A speaker this size needs more power, and if you have even a bigger speaker, you need even more power still. So that's where the amplifier comes in. The amplifier simply increases the power of the incoming signal to be able to drive a speaker on the output. The practical example, let's say that our amplifier has the ability to increase the signal by 10 times, because 10 is an easy number and it makes the math super easy. So let's say it's a 10x amplifier. If we send in an audio signal with a rating of 1 and it goes through our 10x amplifier, out the other side we get 10. If we send in a signal of 2 and it goes through our 10x amplifier, we get, out the other side, we get 20. If we send in a signal of 10 through our 10x amplifier, out this end we get 100. So it's actually pretty simple. The amplifier is designed to increase the power by a certain amount, and that's what you get out the other side. Now, this is a very simplistic explanation. Amplifiers are much more complicated than this, but we don't need to get into this because I told myself I wasn't going to get too geeky about this video when I make it. If your signal source here, let's say it's an old school iPod, because that's what I drew here, because everybody should recognize this as an iPod. So if you make a connection to your iPod, a device like an iPod, because it's really a standalone device, you can use it with earbuds or other things, it has a volume adjustment. But many things, especially in your NuTone Intercom system, they don't have volume adjustments built in, or other types of portable devices that you might not have a volume control built into it. If you have a portable or some type of CD player, it may have a fixed output where it's designed to send out a signal of a certain level all the time and there is no adjustment for it. Phonographs are like that also. They put out a certain amount of signal by design and you can't really adjust that at the phonograph. You have to do it in some other way. Your intercom system is very much like that also, especially because almost any intercom system has at least 3 signal inputs. You have AM radio, you have FM radio, and you have your voice when you're using the intercom. Some newer models will have a cassette player or a CD player, but for the most part you have at least 3 things, and you have to be able to compensate and adjust your system correctly so all of those devices will work correctly, or all of those sources will work correctly when you use your system. The adjustment on most NuTone Intercom master stations that allow you to adjust the level of the signal from the source that's being fed into the amplifier is called the system volume. System volume, the labeling for that, what it was called, really originated in 1984 with the IM3003. Before that, it would have been called volume to all speakers and other sorts of things over time. But in some way or another, every single model has some type of control. So let's go ahead and draw that control in, and where that goes is in between the music source and the amplifier. So if we break our circuit here a little bit, we can draw in our adjustment control. Like that, and we'll put an adjustment on it like that. So what this symbol refers to is the adjustable knob that you turn to make that adjustment. We'll use the IM3003 as an example. On the front of the 3003 there's a sliding volume adjustment called program volume, and the program volume is this adjustment here, and as you slide it towards the plus side, it becomes greater, and if you slide it back to the minus side, it becomes less. They might call that in any system in some way or another. It would be referred to as a volume adjustment, but it's not really a volume adjustment. In the world of audio, it's really what's referred to as a gain control. And the gain control simply means that it's adjusting the level of signal that comes out from the source before it's fed into the amplifier. So as an example, let's say our audio source has a fixed level output of 40. So our little iPod doesn't have an adjustment, and it pumps out 40 units of signal all the time, constantly. If you remember our basic formula, it's 40 times 10. So out this side, it's going to be 400. And 400 is going to be way too loud because mom and dad are going to be really mad because the music's just way too loud. So you need an adjustment here. You need a gain adjustment so you can lower the 40 before it goes into the amplifier, so what comes out the other side is a more reasonable level. Where this gets set has entirely to do with other adjustments on your system and how you want to use your system. If you're having a big blowout party on the 4th of July, you may want more music throughout your house while all of the guests are there, but at the end of the day, when you boot out the last guy, you'll want to turn the system back down. So where this gets set depends entirely on how you want to use the system. We've added a 4th device to our block diagram. We started off with a music source, an amplifier, and a speaker, but now we've added a gain control. So let's go ahead and write in this here. And the gain control allows us to adjust the signal level before it's fed into the amplifier. And this is very similar to how most intercom systems are designed. However, there's one more thing. And if you think about it, there's an additional control. On each remote station throughout your system, there's a volume control there also. So you can adjust it room by room for the level of sound that you want. And that volume control would be between the amplifier and the speaker. Now in most systems it's right on the speaker, but it's still wired in between. So let's go ahead and add another control. We'll put it right here. And not surprisingly, it's going to look just like the other one, because it's really doing kind of the same thing. So now we added a fifth item to our block diagram. We've added a local volume control. Local meaning in the room where the speaker is located. So let's go ahead and we'll label this. There. Now, so we have a music source that's sending 40 units of signal out. It's going through our gain control, which is usually reducing it before it lands in our 10 times amplifier, and then it comes out of the other end of the amplifier and it goes through our local volume control, which is the volume control on the remote station in that room, before it plays through the speaker. And this is the way most NuTone Intercom systems are designed. In fact, it's the way all of them are designed. I can't think of a single one that isn't designed this way. At this point you might be thinking, well, this is all very interesting, but I didn't know I was going to be in science class today, and why do I care about this? Well, the reason you care about this is because it's important that your system is adjusted correctly so the amplifier lasts as long as it possibly can. And the single number one mistake I see when I do field service calls, and most likely for most of the sets that get sent into us, is that the amplifier in the set is damaged because this control and this control are set incorrectly. Let's talk about what incorrectly means. So incorrectly means that the gain control and the local volume control are set at inappropriate levels. What I find in most houses when I go do service calls is the gain control on between the source and the amplifier is set somewhere near maximum. So let's just say, again, for the sake of math, that they have it turned up all the way. So it's not reducing the 40 units of signal from the source at all. It's letting all 40 units through into the amplifier. And since it's a 10 times amplifier, coming out the other side, we have how many units? We have 400 units. Now 400 units is pretty much what you'd hear if you went to a big Coliseum rock concert and YouTube was playing. Okay, you can hear it a mile away. 400 units is way too loud. So of course people do what seems natural and normal, which is they turn down the local volume control that's on each station to lower the volume. So the volume that's coming out of the speaker maybe is only 20 units worth of volume. Okay, so we start with 40, it gets multiplied by 10, we have 400 units coming out of the amplifier, but playing out of the speaker, there's only 20 units. The question that brings up is, where are the other 380 units? Where do they go? What happens to them? Because they don't just disappear, they don't evaporate into the ether of the universe and just disappear and go away. One of the fundamental laws of physics is energy doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere. So where does it go? Well, the way you can look at it is it backs up in the amplifier. Because the amplifier is working really hard. It's getting 40 units of signal in and is multiplying it by 10, and it's making 400 units. And since it's a 10x amplifier, it's actually making all of the power that it possibly can, all of it that it was designed for. It's working as hard as humanly possible, or as hot possible as an amplifier can, to make those 400 units, and it's sending it out to the remote station. But the remote speaker is hardly using any of it. So where does it go? Where's the other 380 units? Well, the other 380 units are in the amplifier and they're all backed up. How do you know it's in the amplifier? Because the amplifier is getting really hot. It turns into heat. The excess energy that the amplifier is making, but the speaker is not using, turns into heat in the amplifier. Now everybody who's watching this, raise your hand if you know that when you put the words heat and amplifier in the same sentence, it's a bad idea. Every single person watching this video should have raised their hand. We all know that when amplifiers get hot, that's a bad thing. Over a long period of time, if an amplifier plays hot, if it's making more power than is being used, and that power is backing up in the amplifier and turning into heat, that heat will damage the amplifier. Classically, what you end up with is, at some point in time, what is commonly referred to as you have a blown amplifier. And a blown amplifier is really easy to identify because it will have this underlying bassy distortion that no matter how you adjust the bass and treble and loudness and you play with everything and you convince yourself that it sounds better, the bassy underlying distortion is still there and you can't make it go away because the amplifier is actually damaged in a way that no matter what kind of adjustments you make, it's still there. And you can convince yourself for a little while it's better, but you really know that it's really damaged. This brings up the next part, which is, well, how should my system be adjusted? How do I make sure I don't blow up my amplifier? Well, it's really kind of easy. Normal listening volume for most people on a day-to-day basis is somewhere between 2 and 4 watts of power. Okay, it's not a lot. It's not nearly as much as people think. What you want is, the ideal way to set up your system is, you always begin at the remote speaker end and you adjust the volume control so it's at maximum. So it lets all of the units of signal that come out of the amplifier be fed into the speaker and it turns into sound out of the speaker. You don't want to turn the remote volume control down at all. You want it at maximum. Now, I've been explaining this to people on demonstrations after a new installation for more than 30 years. And I can tell you for a fact that when you tell people they should turn the volume control up to maximum and leave it there, they always have this strange look on their face like, what is he talking about? He's out of his mind. He's crazy. That's not right. We're not going to leave it turned up to full. There's something wrong about that. He's out of his mind. Well, you know, that's the way it should be. I know for some reason that I don't really fully understand, people have some inherent qualm about leaving things turned up all the way. But trust your NuTone guy, that's where you want it to be. You want it to be at maximum. So all of the power that comes out of your amplifier plays through the speaker. So over here at the gain control, that's the next thing we're going to set. Remember we talked about where this should be set? Well, there is no absolute number where the gain control should be set. It would be nice if every NuTone manual said, adjust the gain control to 4. But that's not the way it works because every house is different. If you have a small house and you have 3 remote stations and a master station, you don't need as much sound or as much volume or as much power as if you had a 6,000 square foot house with 14 speakers. It varies a lot, and acoustics in a house vary a lot. Some houses, they have a lot of hard surfaces and the sound reverberates and echoes and bounces off the hard surfaces and it carries through the house really nicely. You walk through the house and you can hear it really well and it sounds really great. And some houses, it's like you're inside a box of cotton balls and the sound just gets soaked up and disappears and it doesn't travel very well and it's just different. So every house is different and what every homeowner wants is different. Everybody's needs and requirements are different. So where the gain control should be set, or your system volume control, or your program volume control, or your volume to all speakers should be set is whatever gives you a comfortable day-to-day listening level out of your remote speakers when the remote speaker volume control is set to maximum. For most people, this is going to be somewhere between maybe 3 and 4-ish, maybe a little higher. Guys like me, installer guys, we always make it a little louder when we're there because we're really trying to hear what's going on and that makes it a little bit easier. But we know that when we leave, they're going to turn it back down. The idea is, let's say that your ideal gain control for your most run-of-the-mill 1,800 square foot ranch style house with 5 inside stations and a master station, let's say that this is going to be set to 3. So it's 3 units of signal into the amplifier. The amplifier is going to amplify it by 10. We're going to get 30 units out of this end of the amplifier. The remote speaker volume control is set to maximum, so it's not going to reduce the 30 at all. And coming out of the speaker, there's going to be 30 units of sound. And the ideal thing about this is that you're not feeding any more signal into the amplifier than you need to get the amount of sound out of the amplifier that you want every day in your system. So all of the power that the amplifier is making is being used by the speaker when it plays, and there is no power backed up into the amplifier. Therefore, the amplifier is not going to get hot, and if the amplifier doesn't get hot, it's going to last for a long time. And that's it. It's really very simple. I have this discussion with people, I don't know, it's got to be 4 times every single day. And every single set that we repair, when we send it back to people, we include a sheet that shows how that particular model should be set up so the adjustments are correct, so the system operates and plays like it's supposed to, like it was designed to, and that we know will make it work the best that it possibly can. I hope you found this interesting and perhaps helpful. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up on YouTube, because that always helps. When you give us a thumbs up, YouTube sees that, and that tells them that people like our videos, and then when they recommend a video, they'll recommend one of ours. So that helps us because we get more views that way. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell or on the wheel, put in your email address, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.